Getting an intern even if you can't afford it, with Reza Yassi, episode 35. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the firm differentiator 10x effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. I am Moshe Amsel, your host, and today is a bonus episode with a guest. And I'm super excited about this episode because I love finding people who have a unique idea and they take that idea and they implement it and they run with it and they try to make something happen in the world with it. And today our guest is Reza Yassi. Reza is a fairly new attorney, a young attorney working at a law firm. However, when he was in law school, he discovered a need for something specific, and he has created a product around that. And it was just a great conversation with him to understand how it came about and what exactly he has to offer with that. So Reza is the founder of ATTORNNEED, and it's just a great conversation. So take a listen. And I think it'll be useful for you if you're a small law firm. You can't afford to hire an intern full time. It doesn't really make sense for you. He's going to tell you how you can get an intern on a project basis for your specific needs. Really, really cool. Without further ado, let me cue that interview up for you, and here it is. Reza, welcome to the show.
Moshe, thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. I appreciate you making the time to be here and share what the great information that you have with our audience today. So Reza, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for having me on the show, and I'm very excited. So my name is Reza Yassi, and I am the founder of ATTORNNEED. We connect law firms and law students through assignment-based virtual internships. I guess that's the intro.
Awesome. So, Reza, question for you. How in the world did you get into this ATTORNNEED, where it looks like it's a service that you provide, matching students with law firm owners for them to be able to provide a level of service to them, which we'll dig deeper into. But how did you get started with that in the first place?
So it all started while I was in law school about 2 years ago. I'm a recent graduate, but my 2L year, I've always had an interest in entrepreneurship and creating a company. And my 2L year, the school, not the law school, but the Hofstra, the school itself, was having this pitch deck competition where you could introduce a company and try to win some money to grow that company. And I went in with this idea about, it's called Go Grocer, and it was about an idea where you can kind of check out products at a supermarket with your phone. I had no background. I had no technical knowledge. I just thought it was a cool idea, and I failed miserably. So the next year, I was still driven, and I still wanted to do something entrepreneurial while I was doing law school. And I thought, why not, do something that actually relates to my field. And then, ironically, that summer, I had been working at the Hofstra Tax Clinic. And if you've ever worked at a clinic in the summer, it gets really slow sometimes. And a friend of mine who had recently graduated and had started her job as an associate at a law firm contacted me, and she said, "Hey, listen, I have this assignment I need you to do some research on, and just do a quick memo on it and send it back to me. I'll give you $200. It could be a quick internship." And I mean, at the time, I was I was bored. I was sitting at the Hofstra Tax Clinic, and I said, why not? So that kind of really helped in my 2L year, and I kind of took that idea and I really ran with it in my 3L year when this competition came back around.
Very interesting. So, did you win an award for this business idea in that competition?
So I clearly didn't win for the second year. I did finish in the top 10 in my third year for ATTORNNEED, and I did compete at the Long Island regional competition as well, representing Hofstra. But no, I didn't win. I lost, and it was kind of more motivation because a lot of people were telling me this makes no sense and that they can't see the usefulness of it. And I think we've proved them wrong.
Right. So, I mean, I definitely, as an outsider, see the need for it and the use for it. It's pretty easy. You've got a small law firm who doesn't necessarily have the exposure to interns or the war chest to pay interns, and you know, basically to foot the bill of having interns on staff, but they could use some of the professional, less expensive labor that an intern can provide, and but they don't have access to students. So to me it seems like a no-brainer that there's definitely going to be a market for this. And maybe you can explain a little bit more about how it actually works with matching a student with a firm, and what the typical length of an internship would look like.
Yeah, sure. So the reason I said that a lot of people thought it would fail was because um, there's a lot of different there's some issues with the legal field when it comes to the rules that we have to adhere to. So one of the first things that we really need to figure out was the quality of the students that we're providing. These firms put in, like you said, a tremendous amount of time, trying to get the best students and who are going to become future associates of these firms. And we really had to find the best possible way to get the most qualified students for the position. So we've kind of built in a few policies that we adhere to, which includes looking at the student's resume and making sure that they are the right level of students. So that starts with their legal writing grade from their first semester. We're really looking for a B plus or better. And then we also look for journalship membership, which is very critical in law school. We also review the writing samples. I personally review every writing sample that comes in, and we grade it on a 6-point analysis. And then we also take the feedback of the attorneys that we work with to know if we have the right student or if we need to look for different students. So that was the first thing. We really need to get the best quality of students possible. And then we had to make it valuable for the attorneys. I've done many internships, and I know that sometimes you just don't have work to do. So we kind of are saving the attorneys money by allowing them to only utilize these students when they need them without the hassle and the cost associated with the student's time not doing anything, or even worse, when you have to find extra work for the student to do, which means that you can't bill for the things that are most important.
Right. And I would guess that the latter is not really happening. Just the intern is sitting idly waiting for work, and there isn't work to hand to them to keep them busy all the time. And this is a way of really creating an efficient system, so that the student is not sitting there with their arms folded and getting paid for it, and the attorney is at the same time is getting the best bang for their buck with the work that the student is doing.
Yeah, exactly. So when we do assignments, when we have a student and attorney match, we really focus on getting the work done in an appropriate amount of time. I know as a practicing attorney myself, I can't spend 40 hours doing a simple memo. I couldn't bill for that. Ethically, I couldn't bill for that. And my clients wouldn't be happy if I billed like that. So we kind of try to simulate the same thing with our students. We put them on a deadline. We put them on a restriction when it comes to their hours, and we really push them to do the best work possible. And not only because it's better for the attorney hiring the student, but it's better for the student because he's getting an actual simulated feeling of how it is, what it's like to be a new associate. I mean, I know right now I'm going through my first year as an associate, and it's like the first year of law school again. It's you're learning everything again, and you're on tight deadlines, and everything has to be on time. So, by adding this feature where we're requiring our students to finish the assignment within the given time, as long as that given time is reasonable, we really think we're simulating the pressures of becoming an attorney.
Yeah, and I'm going to switch gears right now and just ask you about the business side of what you're doing. How does it work exactly? Does the law firm that's bringing an intern on that comes to you and says, "Hey, we're looking for a match," do they pay you a fee for finding the student and then they pay the intern directly, or are they paying your company for the work and then you're in turn turning around and paying the student? How exactly does that work?
So yeah, that's a great question. We basically sell hourly packages. So we have a 20-hour package or a 10-hour package. And from that package, I take a small fee and then give the rest to the student. And then we also have a finder's fee that if a student is hired for a full-time internship, which we highly encourage, we take a small finder's fee as well.
Okay, so there's an opportunity if the work, if they're happy with the work and the interaction with the student, that the firm owner can then turn around and take that intern on as a full time intern for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the system was made by a law student for law students, and that's my ultimate goal is to find every student permanent placement, permanent internships, permanent associate positions once they graduate. Um, that was really why I created it. Is because when I was in law school, I felt like the opportunities available were few. I mean, I didn't go to the greatest law school when it comes to rankings, and uh, but I still, when I went to law school, I was excelling within my class. I was still in the top third. I had done some clinics. I had interned at the Attorney State's General Office. So I'd had all this experience, and I still was having a hard time finding the internships that I wanted. There were opportunities available, but they weren't necessarily what I wanted to do. So even if can give these students a glimpse into that field, that the actual field that they're really interested in, maybe I could help them. If I can't find them the permanent position, then I can at least help them improve their resume so that maybe the next time the similar position comes up, at least the attorney can see that they have some experience in that field.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see how that can definitely be a resume booster and be helping the student along the way.
Yeah, we're really excited about that, and I think the students are seeing the value as well. We've grown tremendously over this summer. I had actually taken some time to really focus on getting as many students as possible, and I'm trying to get the word out as much as possible for everyone to get on this because it doesn't cost anything. It's just for the students. It's the only hassle is getting an email from me once in a while telling you that there is an opportunity available.
Yeah, and I could see it. That's not necessarily a hassle. Obviously,
Yeah.
they're waiting and looking for those emails, and obviously, if they don't have the time or if it's not the right fit, then they can just ignore that. This brings me in another direction. I'm curious. You might not know the answer to this, but when the intern is brought on to the firm to do some of the work, it's possible that work is billable work, but they're obviously not going to bill the intern out as an intern. They want to get paid for that work. I can see that with a firm that is implementing flat fee billing for the deliverable, it's irrelevant who's doing the work, and that's a perfect fit right there. But if they're billing by the hour, that could create complexity or complication to the work that they're doing and how they're going to turn around and bill their client. Do you know if the firms that are matching with you are primarily doing flat fee for this, or is it primarily research that they're not going to bill anyway, or is there some other tips and tricks that you have figured out for them that they can use in billing out the work that's being done by the intern?
Well, the billing laws or the ethical codes that control the billing when it comes to lawyers can vary from state to state, but usually it's just as long as it's reasonable. So if you're an associate or you're a partner and you're billing out at $600 an hour, it wouldn't make sense for you to also bill $600 an hour for the intern's work. But if you're billing it at a lower rate, it's very, very much legal, and it's what everyone does in the summer. Actually, when students go out and they take on these internships, the reason that so many uh, firms are willing and opening their doors to these interns is because they can bill for the intern's work, not at the same rate as a partner or even associate, but at a slightly lower rate, which kind of gets me into this other point of, all of our internships are paid internships, but in a way, all the cost is built in. And because we've eliminated the fee that comes with the idle time that an intern spends, it's basically it's a profitable tool for every law firm, especially mid-size and small solo practitioners.
Yeah, I could definitely see. I mean, it's a direct correlation to the time spent, because that's the time billed. So as long as you're billing more per hour than you're paying the intern, it's a profitable endeavor for the firm that's bringing that intern on. So it definitely makes a lot of sense, and I can definitely see a lot of our listeners are solos and smalls, where they don't necessarily have access to a full-time intern, and this can fill a huge gap that in the marketplace that they don't otherwise have the ability to fill.
Yeah, exactly. And then when it comes to the other things you mentioned, the flat fee, yeah, that's another way to approach it. There's also, we do some legal blogging, which is not a billable thing, but it's kind of how you increase the notoriety of your firm. We also help attorneys with in-depth research. So when they want to maybe not do a blog, but they want to actually do some scholarly work for schools and get mentioned in actual journals, we also help with that. So it's really just a tool in your tool belt to use as you will. And it's really just about how you want to use it. I just recently had a conversation with another law firm that wants to utilize it as kind of a scouting program before they hire some interns. So this way, when you're looking for your interns, you're also staying profitable at the same time, and you're getting to see their real work product. I'm not sure if you're aware, but one of the biggest things that hiring law firms look at is your writing sample. But the truth is, by the time the law firm is looking at that writing sample, everyone and their mothers has worked on that writing sample, and everyone in that school has definitely worked on that writing sample. So, you don't really know what kind of work product you're getting by just looking at that writing sample. But when you have a student work on an assignment in a time crunch, and he has to get back to you within, a week or two, that's when you really get to know who you're about to hire.
Yeah, I can definitely see that is a huge benefit as well, because the truth really comes out when you're dictating a special assignment as opposed to a writing sample that they've already prepared for you in advance. And the other thing that you mentioned about them writing a blog post, we had a podcast episode not too long ago, and that was episode 28 with Laura Pennington Briggs talking about using a freelance writer for your law firm blog. And this is another great place where you can find that freelance writer, where it's somebody who knows the subject matter and may not have to do as much research, or may understand the research that they find better than a writer who is not versed in the nuances and aspects of practicing law. So definitely think that that's another thing for our listeners to think about, is to start thinking outside the box, not necessarily to bring on an intern to do the work that is billable to the clients, but even the stuff that you might not be doing now, marketing efforts that you would like to do, but don't think you can afford to hire a freelance writer, for example, to write a blog post. Well, now it might be more affordable to turn around and hire a student who is, maybe less expensive than a professional writer to get that done.
Yeah, of course. And to speak to the student side of it, you're also helping a student would gain more knowledge into the field, which I think is in itself has a lot of value. Also, I think that everyone who goes through law school knows how hard it can be, and you always fall in love with your school. So it's just another way of giving back to your school as well. And that is something that we do. If you want to specifically work with your alma mater, we can go out of our way and organize that.
Yeah. So what fascinates me in having this conversation with you is I love seeing outside of the box ideas. I love when something is created that is going to be different than the norm and is going to question the way that we do things. And that's what I do as an outside, business perspective, looking into the business of law firms and start questioning everything from hourly billing to the way that the hiring is done to the way that partnerships are formed and so on. And I like the way that you have basically questioned the internship model as it stands and created a new solution that seems to be a far better model than what's already in place. And I'm sure that your intention is not to uproot and change the current model, but to fill a gap. But I can see this really taking off and making a difference in the industry because it's much more efficient. There's a lot less waste. And the other thing is that in certain states, I know in New York State specifically, this exists, and I don't know how other states treat it, but there are a lot of rules around an internship as far as what you have to pay, and you have to face minimum wage laws and things like that, because if the intern is doing any work that is productive, that you're actually handing them something that is going to be something that you would have normally given to an employee, here in New York State at least, there are rules about how much you have to pay that person, and you basically have to treat them like an employee. You got to put them on payroll, which comes with other overhead, where interns may be able to get away with something completely different normally. So just opens up many different questions and things that you have to think about, where doing it on a contractual basis for just a very brief stint to get something done can remove a lot of that from the equation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a firm believer in paying your interns. I've done the unpaid internships, and don't get me wrong, they were really, really helpful in my legal education. But there's a lot of people in law school now. There's almost 44,000 people enter law school every year, or that there's at least 44,000 people in law school at any one time. And a lot of these students are part-time, and they're taking jobs just so they can work their way through law school. And why not create opportunities for those students to work on the field that they're going to actually go on and practice in. So I think it's a great opportunity for those part-time students who are in need of money just so they can pay their way through school, or just anyone throughout the year who doesn't want to deal with the hassles of commuting, getting the car, finding a way to the job, finding a internship that works with your course load, or vice versa, finding a course load that works with your internship. I think we've removed a lot of the barriers that are in a lot of the students' ways. And hopefully we're just trying to, simplify the process, just make things easier, make it easier for students to learn, and learn by doing. That's how I've always learned, and that's kind of why it was another motivation of creating this company.
Okay, great. So, the listeners of this podcast primarily are firm owners and not students. So, from the firm perspective, walk me through the process from when they hit your website. What do they actually have to do in order to become a registered firm with you and start to look for that first match for their needs?
Yeah, so I have, if you go on my website, www.attorney.com, ATTORNNEED.com, there is an attorney assignment intake sheet that you can just fill out. Basically, all we ask for is your firm name, your field of practice, and the assignment that you want the intern to work on. Once we get that information, I have a quick intake with your firm to really understand what your needs are, what you're looking for. You might be looking for blogging help. You might be looking for scholarly help. You might be looking for just to get some work off your assignment so that you can really focus on that big case. You might need 3 interns because you got a really big case coming in. And you're a solo practitioner, and usually you would have to farm that out to a bigger firm, but because you have this manpower on call, you can take the case. So once I understand your motivations, why you need the interns, then I get to work. I send out the students who are interested in that field an email, and I ask them, and I tell them a little bit about the assignment, and they get back to me with relevant experience. So I like to match first based on relevant experience because it really simplifies things. The student doesn't have to reinvent the wheel, and the attorney doesn't really need to explain all that in depthly what needs to be done, especially if they've done the assignment before. So once I get about 3 or 4 really good students, I then go into a deep dive of their resumes, their writing sample, their transcript, and I suggest 2 or 3 students, or if I think there's just one student that's really perfect for the assignment, I suggest the student, and then that's kind of when the contract is signed, and then the student gets to work.
Great. All right, so that sounds pretty easy and simple. So, folks, if this is something that's of interest to you, then definitely go and check out ATTORNNEED, ATTORNNEED.com, and just go through that simple process of putting in your basic information, and Reza and or somebody on his team will go through an intake process with you to figure out exactly what you need and get that match process started. How long from when they start that, from when they do that initial intake until you find them a match? What's the time frame for that usually?
I'd say 2 to 3 days. Is what we aim for. Is usually 2 to 3 days. At worst, maybe 5 days, 5 business days.
Wow.
But yeah, we try to keep it quick, simple, and convenient.
That's great. That's absolutely great. Well, Reza, this has been wonderful, and I love bringing a fresh idea to the audience. So hopefully. This is helpful for some people listening, and it helps you move your mission forward. And I really hope for the best for you, because this service seems like a much needed service in the industry, and I can see lots of situations where this would be beneficial for both sides of the aisle, to the student as well as to the firm owner. So thank you very much for doing the work that you're doing and for taking the time to be here on the show.
Thank you for having me, Moshe, and I love your show, and I hope you keep doing them.
All right, great. And that is a wrap on that interview, and I knew you would not be disappointed. I am sure that you agree with me. It was a great conversation, and Reza he's young, he's motivated, and has a great product. So if you have a need for it, I encourage you to check him out and see if it works, and give it a whirl, try it out. And I'd love to know if this, if you ended up using it and it was helpful for you. So that'll be it for today. Have a great day. Go out, make some profits, grow your firm, and I will talk to you again next week. That's it for this week's episode of Profit with Law. If you have enjoyed the show, please consider sharing it with at least one person. Imagine how many lives we can change if we each shared this episode. Another way to share the episode is on social media. We appreciate your support and look forward to you joining us again next week.